welcome to the family with.
M. Howard Gelfand.
And Andy Barnard.
It's so funny you say that because people still either call you Gelfand or M. Howard Gelfand. They never say, "Hey, how's Mike doing?" Never.
No, they never have. Like
Nope.
when I was in high school, for some reason, even though most people were called by their first name, I was called Gelfans.
Gelfans.
Now, mind you, I'm going to high school with intellectuals, right?
Yeah.
These are
sure.
people, who could just absolutely, do geometry questions like that I'd just be staring at. They'd do it in 30 seconds, but they would still call me Gelfans.
Gelfans.
I don't know.
Maybe it was a pun that went over your head.
It could have been. Well, everything went over my head when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It's all true. There's no question. All right. What's new in the world today from the two of you?
A lot of work in our garage yesterday. My hands are not happy.
Why are you working on your garage?
Because it's a mess.
What do you mean cleaning it up?
Well, we're cleaning it up and upgrading some things about it.
Oh, okay.
We got going to be getting a new car relatively soon, and we have to make a room.
Yes, but wow, yeah, if you have to make room, that's a lot of work. No doubt about that.
It sure is. So I was doing that for 8 hours yesterday.
No question about it. So, Mr. Gelfand, I just, it's been watching the news a little bit lately, and and if you don't want to talk about this is fine too. I got no problem with that. But I just cannot believe how Americans have turned on the Jews. I just don't understand where the hell that came from.
Well, now, one of the interesting things now is that, so you got a lot of people who are pretending to be champions of the Jews, right?
Yeah.
Who never were and never will be.
Right.
So
right.
now it's like target practice. So now like there's one House member, I can't remember her name, but she prides herself on shooting down these anti-Semites, right? So she shot down a couple of university presidents, and she's getting a lot of credit. And now she's going after the president of Columbia University. Well, this woman at Columbia University has nothing. The university itself has nothing to do with these people, like the people, say, at Harvard, who are just basically, babying the anti-Semites. But the one from Columbia, totally different. They suspended, I think, so far, 15 students were suspended or just expelled for anti-Semitic things that they said or did. Nothing like that's going on. But this woman, she already got all the low-hanging fruit, right? So now she's going after the more difficult targets.
So basically, you're saying that she's, I mean, there's a hell of a lot going on at our university, anti-Semitic behavior, certainly pro-Palestine. And I would like to sit down with all those college students and go, okay, tell me all about Palestine. I want to hear your version. Yeah, tell me about Palestine, because they have no idea where it is, what it's about, what they do. They have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
And tell me who the war criminals are.
Yeah.
I want to hear. I want to hear that one, because if you don't say they're all over the place, they're on both sides, then you don't know shit.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I remember going through this in the late 60s, and again, I understand that it had to do with the assassination of John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King and how many others. There were about 5 of them that got shot back in those days.
Yeah.
Of course, Robert Kennedy later on. So I remember the hatred flowing through the country at that time.
Oh, man.
But the hatred now may be surpassing that.
Well, I told you this story, I know, but just to reference it one more time. So I was a senior in high school. So it had to be, I would say it was 1967 when Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Yep.
And so I was looking for a good story for my student newspaper. I didn't write about things like what the theme would be at prom, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, I could understand that.
So I was at a Billy James Hargis rally. Billy James Hargis was kind of the precursor of these many of these right-wing auditorium ministers, priests, whatever.
Yeah.
Now I guess they're mostly ministers, yeah. And so he was babbling, all sorts of right-wing crap in between prayers, but mostly he was there to collect money. That was basically why he held these rallies.
Collect money for himself.
Well, right, yes.
Okay.
Well, what he said was, he waited until the end, and then at the end, he had what he called the prayer auction. Billy James Hargis did. You can look it up.
I
He,
remember being
yeah.
part
Well, I know
of
you.
Hargis,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he was saying, dear Lord, we need our help, Lord. You know that we've strived our best to spread our religion around the world in 84 different countries. We're heard on the radio, but Lord, we cannot do it without money. And
There
we
you
are in a
go.
bind right now, Lord. And then he
Yep.
would say, I'm sorry, he would say, we need $50,000 right now to continue our mission. And Lord, I know you have given us one person in this audience who will write a check today for $50,000. And then, of course, there's utter silence, right?
Right. Right.
There's supposed to be. And then he says, all right, our Father, we must divide the burden. Then he goes to 25, right? Two for
Sure.
25.
2 for 25. Yep.
Then 12.5, 62.50, right? He goes right down the line,
Yep.
and until he's down to $5, and he gets his money. These people obviously are very religious people. So anyway, he's going through that, and then in the process of this, one of his aides gives him a little note, passes a note to him, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed that Martin Luther King was assassinated tonight." The crowd erupts in cheers.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that one.
Yes.
And why were they cheering for the death of Martin Luther King, who tried to bring us all together?
Well, why do you think?
Which, by the way, is why he was killed, because he was trying to bring
Right.
people of color together. And I'm talking about all the colors from honky on.
Yeah.
But he's trying to bring us all together. But still, we've learned nothing, Mike. We still won't come together. A good example of that is publicly funded NPR has 87 employees. Not one of them is a Republican, which I don't care because I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. But we just cannot get along with one another to this very day. I just don't get it.
That's when I was much younger, I should have claimed to be a Republican. Maybe they would have hired me because they needed a token.
You see?
I mean, I
What
cover
about
all the
that?
boxes, right?
I would think so. Jewish, pain in the ass. Oh, yeah, pretty much. No question about it.
Well, I mean, journalists are supposed to be a pain in the ass.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're
So
right
that
about
one, I get a pass for that one. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's obvious that this is a two-way thing because
Yes.
Republicans probably are not that interested in working for NPR. Now, I don't
Probably.
hear much NPR. What I hear seems to be pretty. It doesn't seem to be controversial, but I guess I must be missing something.
Well, I don't know. I don't listen to NPR.
Well, I don't
never
listen to
have.
much because as you know, I don't drive hardly ever. So
Yeah, that's true.
then I miss a lot of that. I guess I could listen to it at home, but who's going to do that?
Why do you think it is so difficult for people? And I'm asking you this, and I know I talk about it, quite a bit because it was so important to me. I grew up in a neighborhood of Black, Catholic, and Jewish people.
Yeah.
I don't remember any turmoil much. I mean, later on in the late 60s, it came upon us.
Right.
But I'm talking about as a little kid in the late 50s, early 60s, we all got along just fine. Why is it now there can't be one of you in my group? It has to be all me, none of you. Have we always been that way? Has it gotten worse? Has it gotten better? I don't get it.
Well, obviously, there's a huge wedge that's being driven by politicians,
Yes, no doubt.
and we know what that goes back to. They're being paid to do that.
That's correct. It's always about the money, though, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, these days that's a small group of people have made it about the money. It's not what the voters want. It's not what the people want, although I guess eventually it's what they'll all want the way it's going. But right now, people don't want it. Just like the vast majority of people want significant gun control regulations.
Yeah.
But it never happens, does it?
No.
So I wonder why that
Too much money. Too much money involved.
And even though the NRA is bankrupt now in more ways than one,
Right.
even though they're bankrupt, I mean, the money's still rolling in, and even if it wasn't, these people are so conditioned to doing everything the NRA wants that they would do it anyway.
Yeah, probably true. Andy, people your age, how do you see this?
Probably about the same way you do.
Just you don't understand why you all have to be just like me, or I don't want you around me. That's so weird to me.
Well, like Mike said, they've been conditioned to by people who make profit off of it.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, growing up, like I said, I had Jewish friends. The black friends I had were Catholic because I went to school with them. That's, how I got to know them and all the rest of it. Uh, there were not very many Protestants in that neighborhood, so I'm sure we hung out with a few, but there were not very many there. I don't remember, at least at a low grade, I mean younger grade, not low grade, uh, second graders, third graders, fourth graders, whatever it is. Why was it so easy for us to get along? Because we hadn't been exposed to the hatred as 6, 7, 8 year olds. Is that why we all could get along? Because we didn't watch the news.
Yep, probably.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike?
When I coached Little League, of course I started out with the cute little kids who were playing t-ball, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
And those kids were so happy. Those kids were
Yep.
thrilled to be playing t-ball. And all the other coaches were like, I can't wait till I can coach the major leagues, right?
Yeah.
Me, I would have stuck with the kindergarten kids. I would have
'Cause they're
actually
phenomenal.
I would have impregnated my wife 10 times so I could just keep coaching those kids.
Yeah, because they're just grateful to be there.
Yeah, it's
know?
their thing, right? And that's what they care about. It's something that's
Yep.
all theirs. And so they love it, And then you could see as they got older, they were able to understand some of the bigoted things that some of their parents were saying, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah.
some of their friends, but most of it, I think the real anti-Semitism, which I could detect, it's like I could look at parents as they scowled at me and kind of figure out there
Oh,
weren't that
really?
many. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like it didn't permeate every pore, but I knew which ones were like that. And the kids have obviously at some point they realize it too. Remember that kid who called in one day, and he called in. He had just come back from fighting in Iraq,
Oh,
but the
yeah.
only reason he
Yeah.
called in was because he wanted to say something nasty about me. Right? Remember that?
God, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, he was bitter about me. Well, because he'd played on a little league team, and that little league team had lost to our team, I suppose, a number of
Oh,
times.
okay.
And his dad was like, he was like he's been in the military for many years, and you could just see it, you could just see it. It's sad.
Do you think I'm just lucky that I grew up around so many different kinds of people that I never had to deal with that?
Well, I mean, my mother, of course, she went back to, she was born in 1922, and she
Mhm.
went to North High and Lincoln and, all the schools there. And that was certainly what she recalled about her childhood and her high school days too, is that she would say it all the time, and we all got along and there was none of this crap.
And let's not forget that in the 1940s, Minneapolis North High School was the highest rated academic private school in America.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not making that up. It
No.
was the highest rated academic public school in America.
Well, think of it. A lot of those kids' parents had come here from Eastern Europe.
Yes. Yep. A lot of them.
And they truly, it was really a religion to them more than Judaism was. The religion to them was these kids are going to get a great education and they won't have to live in a ghetto when they get older.
Right.
And a lot of those kids, they obviously they learn because their parents made them learn.
Well, I think that's true. But you also, and I've talked about this before as well, going to my Jewish friends' houses, black friends' houses, the Italian family. I learned a lot from all of their fathers.
Sure.
Just because, and mothers too, obviously, but just by paying attention. Again, whether it's the Italian culture, Jewish culture, whatever culture it is,
Yeah.
you can learn a lot if you just shut up and pay attention.
Right. Well, as the great anthropology professor Jack Weatherford informed me many, many years ago, there's no progress without the creative clash of cultures.
There you go. And we stay away from that right now, don't we?
Oh, yeah, we run from that.
It's unbelievable.
We are insular, yeah.
But
We don't want to
why?
learn anything.
Right. Right, that's very true. Why do we do that? Why do we not want to learn? I see it because I thought just learning about other things like cultures and your religion and your, whatever. I loved learning all that stuff, so I didn't know about that. But later on in life,
Mm.
well, I used to sit around in Golden Valley, the golf course over there, and talk to because they had a lot of Jewish members there at Golden Valley, but still do, I think.
Well, it was like the only country club that besides Oak Ridge that would have them, right?
I believe that's true, yeah. But I learned so much. But I would sit there. I had a friend, Norm. Norm was this nice Jewish guy, nice Jewish man. So every time I would see him, because he knew that I could speak a lot of Yiddish, just from being around it as a kid.
Sure.
But he would teach me new words. And my favorite one that he taught me, and he said, I've got one for you you're never going to be able to do. I said, what's that? He goes, Srera. I said, I know what that means. He goes, no, you don't. I said, yes, I do. Basically, it just means stuff, right? That's kind of, Srera is kind of like stuff. But I love the fact that I knew those things, because they were shocked, by the way,
Yeah.
that a little Catholic kid even knew anything about the Jewish culture.
Yeah, I didn't know much myself, so I can appreciate
No?
that. Well, a guy who taught me a lot of Yiddish, it wasn't my parents. My mother spoke a little. My dad hardly any because he grew up in Tulsa, and
Oh, sure, yeah.
so there wasn't much of a community there to share that. And when there's no community, it just dies out. But
Right.
Carlin taught me some great Yiddish because he
Neil Carlin did?
Neil Carlin did. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
one of the phrases he taught me that I still use occasionally is he'd say, "Oh man, he's a shanda for the goyim."
Shanda Fidagoyim. God, I haven't heard. You know, the last time I heard that was
Yeah.
probably about 60 years ago.
Well, yeah, and I had never heard it until I knew Carlin. But for those who don't know, it basically means that he's such a disgrace
Yeah,
that
disgrace.
that Gentiles would look upon that and point their fingers, which it takes a lot of words.
Well, yes, it does take a lot of words, but can we? Here's the part that's kind of disappointing to me because I'm talking about the mid 50s, late 50s, that era of my life, learning all these things because I wanted to learn those things. I learned to speak a little Italian, a little French, some Yiddish. I learned to, just to be able to communicate a little bit with the parents of my friends.
Right.
And definitely, if the grandparent, grandma or grandpa lived with them, they couldn't speak English at all.
Right.
So if I wanted to speak to them, I had to learn their language to speak. And I'm not talking about the whole language, but certain trigger things, how you doing, things like that. People do that anymore? Andy, do you know? Do you think people do that right now?
Probably not as much as they used to.
But it was such a nice way to feel that this is all one neighborhood and learning, how to do this, how to do that,
Yeah.
what's right, what's wrong, all that kind of stuff. I love doing this. I really, really enjoyed growing up there for that very, very reason,
I don't think neighborhoods are really as big of a thing as they used to be.
No, I think that's a very good point that, oh, you're my neighbor. There are people that have no idea who the hell their neighbor is.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking next door.
There are also people who wish they didn't.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I
Why you
just-
clearing your throat there?
I don't nothing. No, just an observation.
Don't worry about a thing. Yeah, I was watching this once again, and I kind of talked about it this morning a bit on Facebook. How I'm supposed to hate Biden, and I'm supposed to hate Trump, and I'm supposed to hate this guy, and I'm supposed to hate. I don't want to waste time hating. If I don't like you, I'll just stay away from you. I don't want to hate anybody.
I think you
Well,
could actually be on the jury.
I might be able to be on the jury because I don't know if they're going to find. Think you'll be able to find 12 jurors to be on that jury panel?
Well, they lost one today already.
Oh, they lost one today.
Yeah.
What
So they're going
happened?
backwards as of 9 a.m.
What happened?
I think the juror said the juror bailed. Actually, is what happened.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't that they discovered anything. The
Oh,
juror
okay.
just bailed. The juror said, "Wait a minute now. I'm starting to get the idea that my life will be in danger if I'm on this jury."
Oh.
So that juror said, "I'm out of here."
Do you think that's a point? Did he have a point? Or she have a point?
I think it's a very logical fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you? I
probably.
mean,
Yeah.
I mean, with the atmosphere we have today, and with you have all sorts of people who've already, who are already. Well, I mean, look, Trump himself is trying to prejudice everybody. He's talking about how that, I mean, it's a real thing to worry about the judge's safety and his daughter's safety.
Yeah.
When you got the former president, he's going on his Truth Social every day, just with the most vitriolic language about these people.
About the judge.
The judge, yeah.
How
Or
can you do
Sean.
that legally? You shouldn't be able to do that legally, can you? Comment on a judge
No.
who's.
Well, no, I mean it's prejudicial for one thing.
Yeah,
And for
absolutely.
another thing, there was a gag order, but whether it included the judge or how it did seems to be in question. But yeah, so now the judge is, well, he may be a liberal, whatever, but you can tell that he's trying to be fair because he's, the prosecution said, we need this gag order enforced.
Mhm.
And the judge said, well, kind of, we'll look into it and we'll give them 5 days and we'll see if they calm down their language. So right now, that whole thing is in limbo.
So a gag order for who?
Well, it would basically be for everybody who's
Just for
involved in the
everybody, yeah.
trial. Yeah.
I kind of just assumed they would do that anyway. Is that not the case? Don't they always do that in cases as big as this one?
Very often, I think what's happening is we're seeing the former president get special favors here because the judge doesn't want to look like he's prejudicial.
But see, they're claiming the exact opposite, that he's getting no favors at all.
Well, yeah, and a lot of it's interesting because I mean that's going to happen no matter who the judge is.
Yeah, no question.
But it's interesting. For example, Trump got a lot of play with this one. He claimed that the judge wouldn't allow him to go to his son's graduation from high school, right?
Yeah,
And-
yeah, right. Yeah.
But the judge never said that. What the judge said was, well, I think Trump may have said, I have to be here every day, but I can't. I got to go to my kid's graduation. Now,
Right.
whether Trump would have ever gone to the kid's graduation anyway it's questionable. Do you think Trump ever went to a parent-teacher conference?
No,
No.
I
And
do not think so.
and I can tell you, I don't know what school the kid goes to, but I can guarantee you graduating from high school is not considered a big deal among those people.
No, I understand that.
I mean, when I graduated from high school at University High School, where half the parents were academics, I mean, I guess they showed up at the graduation. I don't know. I was kind of stoned at the time, but like,
You.
well, then, I mean, I stopped all that stuff when I was 18, but it wasn't a big deal. I don't think. I was shocked that I can't remember even if my parents went, but it was like, so then you got to fast forward from there to 20 years later, and my kids are starting to graduate, and from St. Louis Park, and that just shocked me.
Yeah.
Because what you had is you had a lot of the kids who grew up in fairly well-to-do families. Everything was cool, and they went up and they got their diploma, and then you had kids who you could be pretty sure were the first ones in their family to graduate from high school, right? And there was cheering and shouting and applause. It was, I mean, that's when you really could see. It's kind of scary, it's just not in a way that you're afraid, but it's just you realize it, two completely different cultures there.
They are indeed. What's amazing about that is many, many years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, my God, impeaching Bill Clinton is a horrible idea. Whether he's guilty or not, you do not want to open the door to this kind of thing. But they did, and look what's happened. Now everybody gets dragged before the court.
Well, yeah, I mean, the House is a whole different matter, but the Republicans there wanted to impeach this guy, cabinet man, Homeland Security guy, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And but the Senate said no, we're not doing that. So that ended that. They did impeach him, but like a day later he was acquitted, and that was that. Well, what I was going to say, I'll stop after that. But what I was going to say about the Trump thing is so Fox News. I've seen like 8 different. I've seen clips of like 8 different Fox entertainers.
Right.
The usual guys like Laura Ingraham and Hannity and those people saying, it's an outrage that he's not going to be allowed to attend his son's graduation, and it's just it's not true. The guy just said, we'll face that when we come to it. Is basically what he said.
Yeah, I don't know. That whole situation. Do you think the national news does make our lives much more miserable?
It can, that's for sure.
I
I mean,
think
it
it does
depends. It
every
also depends on
day.
what you call news.
Well, that's true too. I guess the news, what would you even call it? I don't even know if it's
A lot of times
yeah,
it's just entertainment.
it is just entertainment, and they're trying to shock you, and there's no question about that.
Yeah.
First of all, the part that I hate the most, and I hate it about Fox and CNN, stop trying to be funny. You're not funny.
No, leave
Oh
that to the
my
experts.
God.
Yeah, leave that for the late night monologues.
And those are horrendous now too. My
Oh, it's
God,
just
those shows are terrible.
well, yeah. I mean, I think it varies. I mean, I think Colbert has run the course. You know, it's just too
Yeah,
much of one little thing, or even one
right.
big thing. But it's just
Yeah.
he's hammering away. Let his writers come up with some other material. But Jimmy
Yeah.
Kimmel now he's got great writers.
What does he? See, I don't watch any of those shows. I can't watch any of those shows because I liked it better when Johnny Carson was at the helm because he didn't talk about politics at all, ever.
Well, he just had the attitude that all politicians were terrible people.
And he
You know,
was right.
but it was sort of yeah. Well, even then, a lot of it was right, but it wasn't as
Yeah.
much right then. But
Oh no, it's
everybody
right now.
laughed at that sort of
Yep.
thing. Just like when like one of the old school comedians who we never saw, like Will Rogers.
Right.
People like I mentioned him because he was from Oklahoma.
Well, plus
And
the fact that he was with best of all time, maybe.
yeah, he was great. And with him, it was just it was all about humor. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
not all about humor, that's for sure. Actually,
No.
with Jimmy Kimmel, it was kind of like the old, kind of like the Stewart's show. It was kind of like the Daily Show,
Yeah,
where
John's back now.
yeah, and he's back. But the funniest stuff always in these shows were the clips.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot
Yep, I
funnier
agree.
than any joke.
No question about it. Those shows have not been funny for many, many years. Once again, I can't name one that was even close to as entertaining as Johnny Carson. We're not always funny, but Johnny Carson was always entertaining.
Yeah,
He really was. And these
and he
guys
had
are
great
not like
people on
that.
the shows.
And I got to be honest with you, I like Joan Rivers' show too. I know that a
Yeah,
lot of people didn't like it, but I love Joan Rivers.
yeah,
She called in all the time. Well, you remember back in the KQ days, she was always
sure.
calling in.
Yeah, yeah,
It was wonderful. I loved her.
yeah. Great attitude.
She had a wonderful attitude, just a smart ass, nice Jewish girl. That's all I know. So, how much further is this going to turn into 1967, 68 again? Is that what's going to happen when we start burning the neighborhoods down?
We already have.
Well, that's true. It's a very good point. I know, Andy, give me your take on it from a different generation. I mean, how does this all look to you?
Looks a lot like the 60s.
It does. There's no question. But I mean, does it make you greatly uncomfortable?
And that's
Do you just?
one of the biggest reasons we moved.
Oh yeah. Well, I
Getting the hell out
understand
of the
that.
city.
Yeah, that's so sad. I
Yes,
just
it is.
are people, and this is for both of you. Are people that miserable, or do they just think they're that miserable that they want
They
to
think
cause
they're
such
that miserable.
turmoil? They
Well, they're
think
taught
so.
they're taught to believe they're miserable, and that's
Yes.
that's why you
Yeah.
have
Yep.
from the top on down you have this all this delusional behavior. Like I can't get a break. I mean,
Right.
when we see it all the time, we see white billionaires saying they can't get a break. Come on.
I well, there is that.
What's the thing is victimhood is the most valuable currency in the world right now. So
Mhm.
much that everyone wants it, no matter how privileged
Yeah.
they actually are.
Yeah.
And they'll find a way to get it.
So that I'm a victim thing is all once again kind of all about money.
I don't know if it's about money. It's about clout and the ability to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do.
I guess. I don't know. It just makes me very, very sad. That by coincidence, because I didn't know all this stuff was going to be happening and all the rest of it. By coincidence, my first post this morning was about the fact that, I'm supposed to hate this guy. No, I'm supposed to hate the other guy. I'm supposed to hate them both. I wouldn't waste my time on hating anyone. There are people I don't like, but I really can't name many people that I hate. I mean, do you waste your time hating someone?
Occasionally.
I knew
You
wouldn't
need an
back away from
adrenaline
that.
rush.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. Yours is the healthy attitude. I'm not bragging about that. I'm just saying, yeah, occasionally. I mean, after all, you know, I've seen it, but
Yeah.
I don't, but if, I'm not saying that it's a great attitude. It's not. But there's a place for indignation,
Yeah.
but it needs to be in a little drawer. Take it out occasionally if you need to, but it doesn't serve any purpose.
No, I agree. I do agree on that. And look, I went through periods too when I was pissed off at the world because that's one thing about Minnesota. I always thought, Mike, and I really did think that coming from, the dirt poor, nothing going on, father's gone, mother's working 12, 14 hours a day, so I never saw her. I actually thought people would be happy for me when I succeeded, but they were not.
Hey, I wrote a big story about it.
Yeah, you did. That's how I met you, as a matter of fact. There were a few people that were happy for me, but not very many. To this day, they resent the hell out of it. Instead of being happy for someone who succeeded without their help, they're pissed off that I didn't need their help. Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's in some way human nature. When I left the newspaper business and wound up in radio and a scandalous morning show, I can tell you that a lot of my former colleagues were just wishing so hard that I would fail.
Why?
Well, there might have been a number of reasons, but largely, I guess it's because I wasn't part of their community anymore.
There you go.
And it was beneath their dignity. The morning show, but wasn't beneath mine, obviously. It met my dignity at the 50-yard line.
But didn't they look and notice that it was the highest rated morning show in America?
Well, that's one of the reasons they probably hated it.
That's exactly the reason they hated it, because we didn't need them, and that pissed them off to no end. Isn't that sad?
Yeah, it is sad. Yeah. And, I mean, but when I look at that, and I have to smirk a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I could say smile, but smirk is probably more
Smirk's
to the
better.
point. Yeah.
The smirk is better.
I don't smirk much these days.
No, I suppose
As you get older, there's just not that much to smirk about.
I just got another email sent to me, and I do have to bring this up because I've known him for a million years. Mike's known him, Andy, you've known him too. And I don't know anything about this because I'm working at the time and all the rest of it. But apparently, Tony Lee has been off the morning show for like 3 weeks.
That's what I hear. He's MIA.
And I'm hearing that he doesn't feel well.
Oh, no.
The opening deal for me is he going to come back and work with you over at Hubbard? I don't know. I've not talked to Tony in well over a year, something like that.
Yeah.
I always liked Tony. But apparently he's ill. Do you guys know anything about? Does anybody know anything? Is he okay?
I just know he hasn't been on the show, and everyone's wondering why.
Like
I've been
3
asked
weeks.
about it. Yeah, I've been asked about it, but I mean, obviously, I don't have any idea.
And one of the other cast members over there apparently applied for a job at Hubbard. That's not good news.
It could be really bad news.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I got some advice for that person. You ain't ever going to get a job at Hubbard. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but I'm concerned about, because I've known Tony Lee since 1985.
Yeah.
Something like that, 86, somewhere in there. I've known Tony Lee forever.
He came in pretty early.
Yeah, he did. So, we worked together a couple of different times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hearing from people now that he doesn't feel well. Now, none of them have implied that he's got some serious illness or whatever, but apparently he's been sick for 3 weeks. So because like I said, I worked with the guy for a long time.
Yeah.
I just like to know if anybody knows what the real story is, how Tony's doing or what the problem is, and I hope it's not real serious.
He was on our podcast for the first, 2 years? Something like that?
Yeah. Yep. I worked with him four different times. I worked with him a couple of different times at KQ. On the podcast, we worked with him. Then, moving forward from there. But yeah, if anybody knows, I would love to know what the deal is, because I hope it's not too serious. But 3 weeks, being sick for 3 weeks, that's not a good indication, I wouldn't think.
No, the first thing that I would think of, was maybe he's just, feeling a little bit blue, as my father would say.
Mm-hmm.
A little blue.
Yeah, it's my dad would say.
The blue Because of what?
Just feeling, despondent.
Well, yeah,
But he
he's
doesn't-
always been a very blue person,
Right.
Oh,
generally.
that's
so
true. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. He is.
He seems to be, pretty introspective.
So
I don't know.
He's blue because he can't work with you, Andy, and me. Is that what he's blue about?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the deal. Yeah, that kind of thing. I just I did not know because obviously I'm on at the same time, so I didn't know he was off the morning show at the Q for I guess 3 weeks now. It might even be a month now. I don't know.
No, I didn't know it was that long, but I have heard from various people.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So I just I'm sorry to hear that. I hope he does feel better. So Tony, if you're out there, I hope you feel better, pal. I don't know what it could be, and hopefully it's not too serious. That'd be great. But what the hell? That's so funny though. He just disappears. So he's going back to work with Tom over at Hubbard. That's what it is.
That's got to be it.
That's got to be it. But yeah, I have not heard from him, like I said, in like 13, 14 months. Haven't heard a word. But hopefully Tony Lee will recover from whatever he's going. If that is, I don't even know if that's the case, if it's true or not.
So Andy, when you say he's missing in action,
He just kind of stopped doing the show one day, and no one knows why.
okay.
I don't think he made an announcement or anything. He just kind of stopped coming in.
Well, yeah, that's that's scary.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on.
So you guys think it probably is some kind of an illness or something?
Could be. I mean, 3 weeks is a long time.
Yeah, it's a long
But I mean, he
time.
could have just gotten sick of it and retired.
Well, that's a possibility.
How old is Tony?
It's got to be 62, something like that.
So not quite retirement age, but I
Look it up.
don't know. He
Tony
was good with
Lee.
his money.
Well, I don't know. He's
Well,
Jewish,
come
so
on.
he might not be. I mean,
We're
come
all
on,
good
that's-
with money,
There you go. Yes,
except for those of us who invested with what was the guy again?
Bernie Madoff.
Madoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madoff, that was not a good move.
No,
question about it.
no, that could have cost people some money. I get a little scared when I hear you say that he just didn't come in one day, because
Right.
again, that is more suggestive of something of a mood disorder. But I mean, we're just
maybe.
speculating. We shouldn't. But
Yeah, we
but
can't
we all
really-
we all know Tony, and we wish him the best. That's for
Yes,
sure.
absolutely. That's absolutely the case. So I don't know if I find out if it's something I can talk about, I will let you know what I find out.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Like I said, I didn't know he was missing because I was doing a morning show at the same time he was.
Yeah.
So that is that deal. But yeah, so I'll keep an eye out. Andy, you haven't gotten any emails or anything, what it might be?
Nope. No specifics yet.
All right. Well, hopefully it'll all clear up and everything will be a good situation. It's kind of an interesting business at this point anyway. Radio, so podcasting, all of this, it's changed everything. You look at it now, radio, television, all that stuff is hanging on by a thread because, the internet has taken over everything.
Although the women's college basketball tournament was a big hit on television.
What, 70 million people?
I don't know how many, but it was bigger than, of course, the men's tournament.
Is that because of Caitlyn Clark?
Yeah, I would say it's 50% at least because of Caitlyn Clark.
Who is Caitlyn Clark?
She is the best women's or girls basketball player because she was still in high school.
Mm.
Basically the best girls high school basketball player in America.
She broke all the records for everything pretty much, Andy.
I see.
And she was making I've heard like $2 to $3 million she was making in college.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they because now college players can get paid. They signed deals, and she had deals with State Farm, and she had deals with. She got a huge deal now with Nike. So,
Nice.
in addition to the $1 million they'll pay her a year, she makes her salary in WNBA of about $75,000.
And for the first time, the women's title game drew more viewers than the men's, averaging it peaked at 24 million viewers.
So I think it was 70 million overall. I think, yeah. I
It
think that's
averaged
exactly right.
18.7, which is a lot.
Jesus,
So when they
that's a lot
say
of people.
24 million, I should know this, but I really don't. Is that like 24 million televisions, or is that?
That's a good question. I don't know if
Yeah.
it says, well, it's ESPN and ABC. So I guess however they broadcast their stuff.
Yeah, because there's any number of ways they do it, and then there are any number of people watching in the same room. the same family.
Exactly. So this is the WNBA we're talking about.
Yeah, that's where she's going. But what we were talking about was college basketball.
That was the NCAA.
NCAA Iowa. She went to
Oh.
Iowa. How did she not end up going to Minnesota? I still don't understand that.
Well,
Iowa pride.
she's from Iowa.
Yeah.
I suppose.
She was born in Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
Born in Des Moines, Iowa.
Hey, you know, when you experience Des Moines as a child, you're not going to want to leave.
No. It's got
When
everything you could
Fatino's
want.
used to be there. Used to be a great Italian restaurant. I don't think it's around anymore. It's called Fatino's.
Yeah.
God, it was good because I used to travel down there for Capitol Records. So I'd eat at Fatino's, and it was phenomenal. Don't go. You know, Iowa's a lot better state than most people think it is. I love Iowa.
Yeah, there's actually some diversity there. You don't think of it that way. I haven't spent much time in Des Moines, but I've spent a little time in Altoona.
Altoona?
Because that's where the racetrack is there.
No, well, there you go. Gee, there's a shock of the
And
century.
Altoona is in a suburb, and it's just like any suburb you'll ever go to.
It's true. And I did get the email, and I understand. I got to bring this up, I promise, because there are still people that say she did not break the record because the man who had previously set the record did it in 3 years.
Oh, because of Pete Maravich.
Pete Maravich, yeah.
Yeah, but Pete Maravich took like 50 shots a game, too.
Yes, he did. That's
I mean, he wasn't really a team. He was the team.
Pistol Pete.
Yeah, so there are all sorts of ways that you can shade these things. So let's just say she deserves it. She broke the record.
I agree. She does deserve it. I mean, I watched some of the stuff she was, and then they lost the championship game to South Carolina. But South Carolina is one of the best teams in the country, are they?
Well,
I mean,
South Carolina. If you added up the height of all the South Carolina players versus Iowa,
yeah,
South Carolina was probably 2.5 feet taller.
Yeah, it's true.
And they had a 6'7" center. And yes, she couldn't jump. She couldn't get off the floor, but she didn't have to. She'd just reach up.
Right.
I think the tallest player for Iowa was like 6'2".
I think that's probably right.
In fact, South Carolina. I mean, I'm a basketball freak, so to me this is fascinating. Even though you could see it coming, they had more offensive rebounds than defensive rebounds.
Isn't that amazing?
You'll never see that at any level of basketball. They had like 20 offensive rebounds and like 15 defensive rebounds. So they were always going to win because they would get 2 or 3 shots every time they went down the floor.
Is there a reason that women, and I'm talking about a physiological situation here, that so many women have gotten so tall in the last 25 years, something like that?
I have noticed that, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. They're a lot taller than that. What would bring that on?
I don't know. I mean, until I was like 16, every girl I knew in my class was taller than me. So I just assumed. But you're right. In women's basketball in college, it's pretty. I don't remember seeing a lot of 6'5", 6'6" women.
No, absolutely not. There's a woman in our building. She looks to be, maybe she's 35 years old, something like that. She's a very pretty woman, very well-dressed, very attractive woman. Mm-hmm. She's got to be 6'4". I mean,
can she dunk, though?
I don't know if she can dunk or not, but when she gets on the elevator with her little puppy to take him on for a walk, I'm like, my God, that woman's tall.
So in 1912, the average 12-year-old girl was 57 inches tall. Mm-hmm. Okay. In 2012, 100 years later, 61.7 inches.
So almost 5 inches more.
Almost 5 inches taller. But it does even out once they become adults. So they're about an inch taller as adults now.
But they're all
teenage girls are really tall compared to how they used to be.
Because puberty is experienced much younger now.
That is a big, but even
really? Okay.
3-year-old girls are 3.7 inches taller than they were 100 years ago.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's a lot.
I think it's just nutrition is a big part of it.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
We know so much more about nutrition than we used to, and that's a big part of growing is if you get ideal nutrition, you're going to grow.
Yeah, I do think that was one of the reasons why I weighed 65 pounds and was 46 inches tall in when I went to 7th grade, because there wasn't a lot of nutrition to be had, where I was living at the time.
No.
Right.
No.
A lot of government cheese.
It was just Velveeta. We were one step ahead. But I didn't know
fancy stuff.
I didn't know what cheese was until I was probably 16, right? because I thought cheese was Velveeta. I know it may be hard to believe, but that
No?
but that loaf of Velveeta was always somewhere in the refrigerator until it turned green.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good necessarily.
No, but
cool
eventually
plan.
it did turn green because we didn't like it that much. But that would be like a cheese sandwich. That was Velveeta where I was,
Right.
and I had to
Yeah.
make it myself too. But that's not a big deal. But I'm just saying, I mean, when I was like 12 years old, I wasn't feeding myself really nutritious
Right.
meals.
No.
But to this point, I went to camp when I guess it was between 6th and 7th grade. I went to camp, and maybe it was 7th and 8th. But all I remember is that I was at camp for a month and I gained 10 pounds.
Because of the food,
Wow.
just the chow alone, huh?
3 meals a day? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, that's true.
Bring it on. Pancakes, my God.
God, it's going to camp. Andy, you never went to camp, did you?
Yeah, once.
Or you went once?
I don't remember where or when or why, but I know I was there.
God,
Well, the
I
fact that you've erased it from your memory says it may have been traumatizing.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
that's just I have entire years of my life that I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I do too. But I will never forget. Alex wanted to go to camp with her buddies, so we signed her up for the camp. It was a 2.5-hour drive up north, kind of like Detroit Lakes. That's about 2.5 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somewhere
Give or
in that
take.
area.
Yeah.
Give or take. So Alex hops in the car, I hop in the car, and I drive her up there 2.5 hours and get her all set up and ready to go. And I drive back home, and as I get home, Catherine comes out and says, I got some bad news for you. I said, what's that? She goes, Alex does not want to stay at camp. You have to go get her. I said, I just drove 5 hours there and back. So now I do another 5 hours to go get her.
Whereupon she wanted to stay, right?
No, she didn't.
No?
She wanted
Oh.
to go. Yeah, she definitely didn't want to be there. And I don't know why. Did she ever explain to you, Andy, why she didn't want to be at camp?
No, but I mean, she was a very fragile girl when she was very little.
Yeah, she was pretty fragile.
She did not want to be, away from her parents and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I never went to camp, so I don't know what that's like going to camp. I have no idea what that is even all about.
I mean, I don't really. I remember playing on the playground and I remember eating bagged lunches. That's all I remember.
That was the big part of it for you.
Could have done that at home, but I didn't.
Yes.
All I remember is my parents said, you're going to camp. And I said, when can I leave?
Mm,
I'm leaving right now. I'll start walking now as we go along.
And after like about a week in camp, I told my parents I wanted to stay longer.
Really?
Except for the fact that the people who ran the camp said, we don't even want him here now.
mhm.
Why?
And
What
it-
did you do?
Literally after like a week at camp, they sent my parents a letter saying he can never come back.
What did you do?
Well, a lot of it was about the great nail heist.
Nail
The
heist.
nail heist?
Yeah, what happened was they had re-roofed the cafeteria building. It was a huge building where we all ate, and so they re-roofed it. Apparently, there was leaking in there, and but when they were done, there were a lot of nails on the ground, and a lot of them had just. It was a very I can't remember it ever raining that summer, so they were like under piles of dust and things, where somebody could obviously hurt themselves. So what they said at the camp was they told us one day, hey, we're going to be collecting nails. We'll give you all a cup to store them in. And if you can find 10 nails, for every 10 nails, you can get a certificate good for a bottle of pop.
Ah.
Oh, there you go.
Well, we weren't getting bottles of pop at camp, rightly so, but we weren't. And so I sat there and I watched these kids, these poor, pathetic kids on the ground, getting dirty and dusty and collecting nails, and which were
Right.
probably rusty. I wasn't going to do that, but I just kept my eyes on the nails. And so I saw one of the counselors come and pick up some nails and take it to a shed. Well, I guess you know where I found my nails.
You stole your nails?
From the shed, yes.
From the shed.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
I for some reason, I thought I would never get caught. But apparently someone saw me and dropped the dime on me.
Yeah, because you wouldn't think that anybody even pay attention to that, but they did.
Yeah. Yep.
What's he doing going in the shed?
Maybe it was the 5 bottles of pop that I had claimed.
Well, that's
Maybe
possible.
that's what.
Caffeine delirium.
Yeah, I just think that I probably went. As Sid Hartman always said to me, Gelfand, you went too far this time.
Too far. Let me just tell you.
I guess I went too far.
Mm-hmm.
God, we were talking about Sydney this morning on the morning show, and I do miss Sydney. I got to be very honest with you. I spent a lot of time with Sydney over at the old Lincoln Dell and hanging out with him, and he was just such a piece of work to hang out with. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Sydney at the Lincoln Dell. He was in heaven when he was at the Lincoln Dell.
Telling heartwarming stories about Kid Can,
Oh, he knew Kid Can quite well, actually.
or Fergie as he called him.
Yeah, Fergie. That's right. He call him Fergie, didn't he? I forgot
Yep.
about that.
Fergie, which is for those who don't know, and there probably are a lot, it was a short version of vergessen, which means
Vergessen,
he's
yep.
forgetful in Yiddish.
Yep.
Huh.
Ferguson.
And that's why whenever he talked about, he started out, he never referred to Kid Can
No, it was
that,
always
that I
Fergie.
remember, but he did call him Fergie.
He did call him Fergie. Well, Sid and Kid Can and Hubert Humphrey used to hang out together quite often in North Minneapolis. And then later on, it wasn't Hubert Humphrey, it was Carl Pohlad.
Really?
Oh, yeah, those guys used to hang out quite a bit. Well, I know that Sid and Carl Pohlad were really good friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they were, because Sid was attracted to anyone with money and power. He just was.
That's true. He
Yeah.
was. You're absolutely right.
And that's why, Sid befriended all these people who were just poison to most people. Like, who else would talk lovingly about Bobby Knight?
Bobby Knight.
Good friend.
Because he threw 4 or 5 chairs every game. But other than that,
Yeah, he was such a nice guy.
God, he's dead. I can't believe that Bobby Knight is dead.
It didn't seem like he'd ever die.
No,
It just seemed like he was too powerful, too caustic.
Boy, he used to love throwing chairs. I never understood why the league, the NCAA, let him get away with throwing chairs like he did.
I know they suspended him for a few days or something.
Yeah,
once.
they did.
That was when he threw the one like all the way across the
Yes.
floor.
Yeah,
It had to
I
be
remember.
bad for the hardwood there.
You would
Well,
think.
Plus, if it caught a human, it might have killed them. But other
Well,
than
there's
that,
I mean, at least Anthony Edwards threw like a folding chair. It
God,
wasn't like
Anthony
a big heavy thing.
it wasn't. It was
No.
a wood folding chair.
Well, he was upset.
At what?
Well, because he had just cost the Timberwolves their playoff berth
Oh yeah.
by taking a 30-foot shot with 3 seconds left when he could have passed it to 2 teammates who were wide open.
Yeah, I never understood that.
But no, because he will tell you he has to take the last shot.
Yeah, I guess.
He's earned it.
Speaking of the last shot, we got 1 more minute to go. Any closing words?
We've covered so much ground. What is there?
I love the ground we
Yeah.
covered today. Covered all these different topics, get to all the good stuff.
Yeah.
I love that part about this show. All right, that is going to do it. We will talk to you later.
Marvelous.
Got a picture in my pocket reminds me of this one was before. Every time I hear the same reminds me how you talking.